Hi, everybody. Julia here for Cherry on Tech. And this is our last event for our job preparedness series that we're doing in February. We finished our last cohort. Woo! Can you hear my boss on the other side? There you go. I'm turning it off. Okay. We finished our last cohort in fall 2023, and we are a little bit organic for the job readiness for this time. I'm super excited because for the next cohort, we are bringing a whole month of just job readiness for the participants. But before we start and we go into what we came for, that is leveraging product management skills into the job market today, I'm going to go through the land acknowledgement. I've been doing these for all these series. So I would like to acknowledge the land of each of us is present on Turtle Island, that we are guests here, and it's our shared obligation to respect, honor, and sustain this land. Acknowledging the territories that we are on is all about is about so much the land, and is the same time all about the land. This essence of the land acknowledgement is honoring the people and communities of Turtle Island. The acknowledgement, the wisdom, belief, teaches, languages, help, support, love, care, traditions, and many, many ancestors who have been in this land since the memorial times. In acknowledging the traditional territories of many indigenous people of the Turtle Island, we're given the opportunity to welcome these traditions and ways of being in our own lives. I ended up choosing Turtle Island because that accomplished all North America. Uh, most of us is in North America, so that's a good one. But I will welcome and encourage all of you to Google where are you located, so you know what we're talking about. So for today, I'm super pumped. So if you're watching us in LinkedIn, YouTube, or you came here because ADP list, make sure that you put all your questions in the chats and comments. We will go through those at the end of the questions that I prepare with our guest speakers. So let's bring our guest speakers. Hello, Ewan. Hello, Gabs. How are you? Nice to have you
Hello.
here.
Hi.
Thanks for having us. Hello.
Yes. Okay. So again, this series is all about job preparedness. And the last two that we have, it was for developers and then for UX designers, and we are all about product managers today. But from the last talk that I had, everybody could use the skills and everything that we're talking about. So even if you're a developer or a designer, I feel like this is going to be really powerful for you. Let's start telling people who are you two. So Ewan, tell me about you.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. My name is Ewan Sim. My pronouns are she and her, and I am currently the VP of Product at Greenshield Health. We're building a health ecosystem, a payer provider platform. So that's kind of what I do here. And Juliet told me to tell an interesting and unique fact about myself, so I'm going to share that as well. A unique fact is that I recently designed and created a card game. So it's a card game with card shedding as well as penalty mechanics built into it. And I'm currently working on a new concept for a board game.
What? Okay, I work with you, and she doesn't share this, so I didn't know. This is so cool. Love it. Okay, are you going to let us know where we can find these cards and everything at one point?
Well, it's not mass produced, it's a personal project, but my goal one day is to actually have it produced.
Okay, love it. Yeah, sign me in for it. Gabs, what about you?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I am Gabs Hayes. My pronouns are she, her as well. And today, in this part of my product career, I spend time around career alignment and career coaching and just supporting the people of the product management industry and your journeys in your career in product management. And my unique fact is I did not experience and know that music festivals are my happy place until I was in my 30s. So I feel a little bit behind, like I've lost some of the good years, but I still get out there and enjoy it.
Well,
Love it.
I have never done been in one, so maybe it's never too late.
That's right. Yeah. The first one I did was one of those like you stay on site. Like we just went all in. So definitely try it
Okay.
out.
Yes, love it. Perfect. So as you two mentioned, you are in product. What does inspire you to pursue to be a product manager? And when did you started in the field? I'm going back to you, Gabs.
Yeah, so I think like many people that are listening or have been in product before, I fell into it by accident. So it was not an intentional choice for me. I made the transition from a corporate healthcare career into product to support health tech companies. And I've been around for about 8-9 years now. So I've had a good journey in different parts of product, but definitely something that wasn't necessarily intentional. So I'm happy to see that it's starting to become an intentional career path for sure.
Love it. Ewan, what about you?
So, like Gabs, I also started my career in product management in the healthcare space and very similar journeys. It's an accidental career path for me. I think when we look at 10 years ago, product management really wasn't a recognized field that people knew that they want to get into. And definitely now it's great seeing that it's a more deliberate career path. So, I started actually in healthcare market research. A lot of the work that we did was really helping to uncover the consumer journey for patients, as well as the journey of healthcare practitioners and how they kind of navigate the care continuum. So in that work, I discovered that I really like solving problems and getting to the whys behind, why you're building something, and led it into an accidental product management role. And that's where I realized I actually really like doing it. And so I've been doing it for about 10 years.
Love it. And what I like about both of you's stories, and I'm going to relate here a little bit about Cherry on Tech. For some of you that don't know what is Cherry on Tech, we are a volunteer organization that empower underrepresented genders to get into tech. And a lot of people come from like different spaces and swapping careers and new into tech. So these two stories are super powerful because so many of you that are listening and watching us, they come into the same space. So I love it. Okay. So in your opinion, Yuan, what are the most important skills or qualities that aspiring product managers should have?
So I think a lot of product managers, if you're looking to get into the field, it's really easy to feel discouraged that you don't have any kind of technical background or design background, unless that's kind of like where you're coming in from. So I would say don't focus too much on that. But if you're looking to get into product, definitely highlight your experience from whatever industry you're working in and get into a tech adjacent role. I would say it's a lot easier to transition into product if you're leveraging existing skill sets of knowing the business, the customers, the pain points that you're solving. And let's say you're working in the food and beverage industry. Perhaps enter a role whereby a company is building a platform to service the food and beverage industry with a tech-enabled solution, and kind of leverage those skills to highlight what you know about the customer, the market, the space, and maybe start in a QA role or a customer support role and use that to enter into a product role from within an organization. I would say that's one good place to start, especially if you're brand new in the space.
So we're saying that we use the knowledge that you already have and you're really good at it. So it's not like you're starting from zero.
Exactly.
Yes, love it. Gabs, what about you? What skills do you think that product managers should possess?
I think that they should absolutely focus on the soft skills. And I love, Ewan's point here that you can carry those from any role that you've had in the past. Some things that I really work with people who are looking to enter into product on is that self-awareness. You're going to be put into some really challenging situations where you're actually going to have to stand up for yourself or your product, and you're going to have to be able to push back in a really healthy and respectful way. So being aware of yourself and how you're feeling in the situations is really important. But also along the same lines, your confidence, going through the whole job search process can really take a wear on you and your confidence and your belief in yourself. And so just remembering whatever your journey is to get into product, that's not a representation of you as a person. So don't let that affect how you show up when you get in that role. And then the other thing that I think you absolutely can practice even in your own personal life is value-driven communication. In product, you're kind of responsible for communicating across many bridges and bringing, gaps together of different people. And you have to know how to reframe the things that you're saying to what matters to that group of people that you're talking to. So really honing in on your communication skills is absolutely something that you can even be able to display really well inside of an interview. And so it's always something good to be able to practice and brush up on.
Love it. And Yuan, I'm going to get back to your story of like how you just, whoa, surprise, now you're a product manager kind of idea. What is that skill that you are like, oh my goodness, I didn't know that is something that I use so much in my previous career. And now as a product manager, I do it all the time. What do you remember back at the beginning?
I think that's a great question. For me personally, because I started my career in research, I think the ability to dig deep into customer problems, understanding the whys behind that, thinking about how do you approach user research, for example, to really understand the space that you're working in is something that I think is key as a product manager, right? So that's definitely a skill set that you can bring to any role, not just product management, and using that ability to really empathize with your users, your customers, and using that to formulate solutions to solve problem, I think comes in really handy, especially in product management.
Yay, love it. And I'm going to say love it so many times, so people please love it with me, okay? Gabs, because now I'm going to put you from the outside as a coach. And it's like one of the hardest part when you are switching careers is like, okay, I have all this knowledge and I have done all of these things. How do I highlight this when I'm talking to people, when I'm talking to organizations? I feel like a lot of people transition, and this is one of the hardest things to accomplish. How do we do this?
Yeah, so I always recommend starting with your personal brand statement. So just as you would for your product, or as people do with like marketing, physical products, really think about yourself as a product. So what are all of those lived experiences that you've had up until this point, and why do you want to be a product manager? I think, we get so focused on what are the tactical skills that I've done and what things can I put in bullets on my resume that you forget all of your experience really adds up to who you are as a person and the value that you deliver to a team. And one of the things I say all the time is we cannot forget, even though we're product managers, often working on very technical solutions, we're building products for humans who are building it, humans who are using it. And so you also get to be a human as a product manager. And so focusing on what those really superpower, strong skills are that you have, whether it is that communication, that empathy, that research, things that you're going to use as a product manager, pull those out from all of your previous experience, list them as your superpower, and don't be afraid to share why you're making this transition, because your story does carry a lot of weight.
Yes, I love the superpowers. I mean, this is something that I mentioned with all my mentees on AD Pillars. And people sometimes forget that they do have superpowers because they feel like it's just like breathing, something like they do every day. And they forget that no one else can do what they do. So I love superpowers. Yuan, what another strategy can people highlight from their previous experiences? And mostly when there is not related exactly to product management.
So if it's not exactly related to product management, I think one way to approach the job hunt is to really focus down on industries that you're really interested in and passionate about, and using that brand story, as Gab said, to really highlight yourself to the recruiter or the hiring manager to talk about why you want to work there, why this space is exciting for you, right? Especially when it comes to the market right now, it is a numbers game. There's a lot of people looking for jobs. It's really easy to get disheartened when you're using a cookie cutter approach to apply for hundreds of PM jobs only to face a lot of rejections. So I think it's taking an approach that's a lot more intentional, catering and kind of customizing your application, your story to really resonate with the company that you're applying for, the problem space that they're operating in, and standing out as a candidate that way. And also, maintaining the perspective that there's going to be a lot of rejections before a yes, and just stay motivated through that.
And I'm going to throw here a question from Dana from Lincoln, mostly because I feel like it's a good one to bring right now. So I'm curious to deeply understand effective strategies in how best to navigate hiring biases. 90% of the roles that are open are asking for hardcore technical skills, where the transfer skills required to excel are less than 2%. Ooh, okay. So, Gaps, what do we think about this? What do we tell Dana? Dana needs some help here.
Yeah. Dana, I love the numbers behind your intentional question as well. Just really shows that it is a numbers game and that you do have to be prepared for some of those rejections, like you mentioned. One of the things I think is giving a little bit of grace here to understand that oftentimes the hiring manager or the recruiter who is posting these positions are posting them almost out of sheer desperation at times. So they themselves have not been intentional around this posting. Right, wrong, or indifferent, it just carries on through your ability to apply. The other thing is I would say if you have a way to get in touch with their hiring manager or the recruiter, really bring up with them what's the real need and gap in this team. Oftentimes what's written on the job description is not what you're going to do in the role or is not the actual gap that the team has. And so any way that you can help them understand that maybe you've put some things on here that aren't necessary, or even help them identify a gap that they have that they may not be aware of and show how you can help fill that.
I'm going to ask you the same question, but from your perspective as like hiring manager. Like, what do we think about this?
Mm-hmm. So I definitely agree with what Gab said, right? It's about kind of like making the message really resonate with the hiring manager and helping them identify gaps that they might not even have in the job posting. So that's definitely one. How do you connect with them? Look them up on LinkedIn, look at their experience, find out what the company is doing, what's on their roadmap. So really leading with curiosity, I think is important, especially in this market when there are a lot of job applicants. When you're a hiring manager, you have your full-time role that you're doing, and then you're also hiring, you're getting hundreds and hundreds of applications. They're not the sad reality is that hiring managers aren't looking at every single application that they receive. They're either just doing a scan and looking for keywords in all the applications that they're receiving, or leveraging some kind of AI built into the applicant tracking system to pull out not just the applicants that meet the minimum requirements, but the applicants that actually stand out. So as said before, not taking a blanket approach with your resume and your application and just sending it to 100 different jobs, but really taking a really intentional approach and trying to connect with the hiring manager as well outside of the official application process, I think goes a long way.
And I feel like this is a good next question. And I feel like a lot of people is waiting for this. It's like, what advice will you give to product managers who are just starting their careers and looking to land their first role? How do we land this first role as a product manager, Gabs?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to something Ewan said earlier in that sometimes you have to get your foot in the door through a product or tech adjacent role. I will say, for both of us, when we started, product was very different. You could fall into it by accident because nobody really knew what it was. We were all figuring it out as we went along the way. Times have changed and people want to be in this industry. So you have competition now. I mean, developers went through this years ago and are starting to go through it again, right? It's just kind of the ebb and flow of the industry. But in addition to that, I will say, if you're breaking into it, my best piece of advice is whatever your lived experience is ahead of this. So whether that was health, hospitality, auto mechanics, whatever it may be, find a product company that's in that industry. Because when you step into that interview, you're already going to have confidence because you speak the language. You won't feel completely outside of your depths. But also when you get on the team, you'll immediately have something to contribute in a valuable sense because you know those customers inside and out. As example, that's how I got my start was I went to sell a product to hospitals, but the product didn't work. So there wasn't anything to sell. So I had to be that healthcare voice of reason to figure out why it wasn't working, why our customers weren't using it. So then we could start to actually increase utilization. And so, yeah, I would say anything that you can tie to what you've already done really just boost your own confidence as you step foot into this new space of your career.
What else could we add here, Yuan?
I feel like that is such a great answer. I'm not sure if I can add anything else to that. You know, as a product manager starting, without that, call it like a technical background in product management, I do deeply feel that start with that lived experience or the industry experience that you have to as that first step.
Ooh, I have one, and maybe I'm going to throw some cherry on tech here. I feel like what we do on cherry on tech is we know that there is that gap into having like hands-on experience and not having a job, and without the job you don't have hands-on experience. But wait on, we have you. Don't worry. If you come to cherry on tech, we put you together in a tech squad, yes, with PMs, developers, and designers, and in 15 weeks you build like an end-to-end project. How powerful, and I'm going to ask you, the two of you, how powerful is to have, because this is not like a real project into the idea of like a lot of people is using it. Yeah, this is like at the end of 15 weeks is like an MVP with the idea that could be something bigger. But how powerful could it be to have something in this way, Gabs?
Yeah, you know, from a PM lane, I think it's incredibly powerful because developers, designers, they have ways, physical ways to show their skills, show what they're good at, show their thought process. For PMs, it's really difficult to do that until you get on the team. And for it to be one of the most expensive and strategic hires for a company, that's a really imbalanced way to say, just trust me, I can do the work. You have to pay me first and let me get in there, right? So I think with what we're doing on Cherry on Tech, you have that lived experience. One, now talk about confidence in an interview. You've done it. It was haphazard. It was fast. You learned on the project, but now you can actually speak the product language in addition to the industry knowledge that you have because you've done it. Not only that, you have something to prove. You have a story to tell. And I always say to people, interviews are not here. You're not closing a sales pitch, right? This is not, I'm trying to sell you $1 million project. I'm trying to show you the value that I can bring. What better way than saying, 13 weeks ago, I started with this team and we had never met each other, had never touched a website before, had never built a project, and we're getting ready to release our MVP. And here's all of the things I learned along the way. As a manager myself at points in my career, that would blow me away because you did that on your own time and your own initiative to really get your hands in there and learn as you went.
Love it. Yeah, just a little bit of cherry on tech. I will keep throwing here. Okay. Yuan. So how do I start my job hunt? Like, what should I do? What will be the first thing that I should do as a product manager for the job hunt?
So the first thing, if I were to be on a job hunt or if I was a product manager looking for a job hunt, is to narrow down on the industries that really resonate with me as opposed to applying for everything because it's really going to be really hard to compete that way. So narrowing down, as Gab said, something that you have lived experience with, work experience with, the industry knowledge that you have, narrow down on those and start looking for those. And even, and I think a good strategy too is not just looking at what postings are out there, right? So if there's a specific industry they're really interested in, look for startups in that area. Small companies that may not be posting jobs on LinkedIn or online and reaching out to those companies individually. Asking them if they are looking for a product person, if there is a gap that they're trying to fill in their organization. May not be a product role, could be a product adjacent type role as well. And I think that's a great way to start, not just looking at what's been posted, but I think startups are a great opportunity to work on that personal project, and joining communities like Cherry on Tech, right? Like working on a project that you can showcase in a portfolio. So I think that's one. The second strategy would really be preparing for the interview itself. I think there's a lot of amazing resources online to help prepare for interviews. A great website that I've come across before is called stellarpeers.com, and they have amazing interview frameworks that you can use, prepare for your behavioral interviews. Sometimes when you're in an interview, it is really hard to think of concrete examples because of nerves, and it's really hard to come up with those examples. So those are things that you really, really want to prepare ahead of time, right? Look at case studies, look at projects that you've worked on before, and using the STAR technique when talking about your experiences, the situation, the task, the action, the results. Like frameworks like that, I think are really helpful and going to help you be really confident when you're actually doing an interview.
And I'll just shamelessly throw in there, Julia, too, that like I offer free interview training for that exact reason, because it is so much of storytelling and just nailing down what scenarios are you going to go to when you get asked a question about, tell me about a time you did something great, tell me about a time you messed up, tell me about a time you had to communicate a challenging situation. The questions in general are fairly similar, so if you get those scenarios nailed down, you will walk in feeling so much better about yourself and ready to really answer those questions and shine.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to throw another question from Dana. Hold on. She gave us a lot of information here. Let me close it. Okay. Over the last 5 years, product management has swung from being business focused to now the current market is being split to be more growth focused. How can one leverage transfer skills to respond to this pendulum? I love the words, Dana, of change within the job market. 40% product openings are now growth focused. Any thoughts, Ewan?
So if you're applying for growth type jobs within the product industry, I think it's really important to use that as a learning opportunity to really, not to use the word growth again, but really grow into that skill set, right? So if those are the types of jobs that you're applying for, or you're noticing that in the market or in your area, those are the listings that's coming up, I think it's a very clear indication of what skill sets the market is looking for. So using that as an indication of where you might want to do some learning on the side, doing some courses online that really cater to that need that you're seeing.
Gaps. Anything else?
The other thing I would just add to that is really, take some time to figure out whether it's growth or it's technical PMs or whatever this kind of specialty that you're starting to see swing in the market that you're looking at. Understand what's the underlying needs of that. So for example, what I'll say to you is growth PMs they're still newer to the industry. Product companies as a whole focusing on growth as like their main focus, that's new. So what comes with that is a ton of education. So if you can educate yourself and you go into an interview or a conversation with a recruiter or hiring manager and you're able to teach them, you're instantly highlighting and showcasing your ability to educate the team, to educate the company, and to really continue to learn yourself, because this is a new piece of the market. It's going to be changing. So they're going to need someone who isn't stuck in their ways, who's willing to try different things and really get out there and see what moves the needle for the company and the product.
Love it. Okay. So as a hiring manager, and I will ask you just to tell me one thing. I know it's hard, but one thing that a specific quality or attribute that you look when evaluating candidates for PM role. Just one, Gabs. Hard one.
Oh, this is hard. If I'm talking to them, it's their ability to clearly communicate and tell their story.
Okay. Concrete. Ewan.
For me, it's curiosity. Did they research the company? Are they just doing another job interview that is a kind of a blanket approach with all the other job interviews they're doing? Are they asking questions at the end of the interview? Are they genuinely interested in the company? So I think I'm looking for curiosity.
Love it. Okay. So I know last time I was talking about this and we defined that maybe mistake is not the right word for this, but I'm going to still throw it up here. But can you share some common mistakes that job applicants make during the hiring process and how can they avoid them, Ewan?
So I'm going to somewhat repeat what I've said earlier as well, because I think this is a mistake that, recently going through a round of hiring, we see a lot is just resumes, cover letters that are just not customized for the role that someone's applying for, right? It doesn't speak to me as a hiring manager. It's not something that will stand out when you're scanning through lots of applications. It is unfortunately a really competitive market right now. So we're not just looking for people who meet the bare minimum requirements, but also stand out to what the company is doing, as well as what the job posting is asking for.
I feel like I really love this one, and it comes from a space that I need a job. So it's just give me whatever comes in the way. But I feel when then you come from what you just said, you and is like, if I don't really care, I just want any job, then people will see it that way and they can read it on the resume. So I feel like coming from any space that is like, I really want to be here. I know that I'm going to be like a rock star in this space. Like I know everything about, let's say, health, but maybe I'm new in PM, or there is going to be like an intersection when your eyes are going to be hearts, and people can really see that when you are talking. So come to that space when your eyes become hearts. Gabs,
Exactly.
any other one?
Yeah, I think the other thing I will say, just from doing recent, tons of resume reviews, is, and I think this comes from this advice, right, of you can only have 1 page, 2 page, like people are worried about space on a resume. So I understand why it's happening, but people are chopping that top part of the resume off and all they're putting is their experience. And so if you put yourself in Ewan's shoes, if she's looking at 100 a day and all I see is just bullet points of what you did, I don't know who you are. I can't get hard eyes with you. So I will say, take up that top third, space of your resume that's prime real estate and use it to really communicate who you are as a person and the value that you deliver and why you're passionate about this job that you're applying for.
We don't have this question on my list, but I'm going to throw it here. Now that you mentioned about resumes, because let's say I have done so much in my life and I did so much as this job and I want everybody to know it. So I'm like, put in a stuff like, please, everybody knows that everything that I have done. What should I choose to put in my resume specifically? I know this is a hard one, but I have seen these many times that I want to tell you everything that I have done, but it's hard. When do you have time for this? So, yes. And then I'm going back to you.
Yeah. So for me, it's going back to looking at that job that you're applying for. And when you narrow by industry, it makes this a lot easier. So take all of this advice and put it together in this kind of playbook for yourself. But when you've narrowed it down, what did you do in those former roles, whether it's volunteer, paid, life experience, whatever it may be? What did you do that directly applies to moving the needle to the job that you're applying for now? So back to Dana's question, if this company is in growth mode, highlight those areas. We don't care that you ran ceremonies. Ceremonies don't grow our product, but what else did you do that helps grow the product? So that's really part of that customization that we talked about.
I want to do it a little bit different for you, Ewan, because it's a question that comes all the time. It's like, and for example, this is when we have products like the MVP on Cherry on Tech. Like we did a lot, but we don't have like how many people use it, on how many improvement was here, or how do I still prove that I can do the job without like specific numbers or percentages? Yeah.
So personally, when I am going through resumes and looking, I might not be looking for numbers at all, right? Like if someone is able to communicate and tell a story of how they've done a specific project, like numbers are key in terms of demonstrating something in a more quantifiable manner. But I don't think that it will break the resume if you don't have that. Going back to what Gab said, I think it's key, right? Looking at what the company is looking for. And I really like the example that she gave, because with PMs, especially product managers, there's so many things that you do. You run ceremony, you run Scrum, you write tickets and all of that. But if you were to highlight all of that in a resume, you'll have like pages, like just a laundry list of all these things that you do. And it actually doesn't quite make you stand out, because every single PM is going to say that they run ceremonies, they write tickets, they collect requirements, and really that's not what hiring managers are looking for, because that's kind of the table stakes of the job. So really talking about the industry experience, for example, or how you've solved problems, worked on highlight 1 or 2 interesting projects that you've worked on in a previous organization. I think that really helps tell the story a lot better.
I think we're kind of coming back here to what you mentioned at the beginning, Gabs, is like that superpower. We forget that when we are in spaces and we use our superpower, our presence and what we do is specifically helping to grow the team, the product. And because it's like, again, like breathing, we forget that this is like something that no one else has done before. So come back and sit down with yourself and it's like, what is that thing that no one else have in the team and that I have brought to just improve overall? I'm going to bring a question here from Denise. Okay, let me see. Sorry, I have to close it again so I can read. Do you suggest addressing where your own gaps are, or how you plan to overcome them in the cover letter, or just focusing the qualities do you meet? What do we do with these gaps? What do we say? Gaps.
Ooh, this is a good question. I think if you're writing a cover letter and it feels natural to the conversation and the story that you're telling in the cover letter, there's nothing wrong with admitting that you have gaps. I just want to point blank, blanket statement. Every single person, even the president of the company, has gaps that they still have to grow from. So we shouldn't be ashamed of them. And sometimes there is power to being the first one to acknowledge it and call it out, because now you're controlling the narrative. However, I wouldn't make them big and bold and a huge focus of it, because ultimately your goal with a cover letter and resume is to get on the phone or get in the room with someone so that you can have that conversation with them. And if those gaps come up, that's your chance to shine and say, I was a teacher before, so I was constantly doing continuing education to keep my certifications up, and I'm super happy to do that in product. Would love your recommendations around what I should focus on. And so that starts to help open that relationship building and that conversation, and it addresses the gaps without making them a negative thing.
You and anything else to add?
No, I really like that answer, right? Not drawing attention to it like it's the main thing of the cover letter, I think is key. If it feels natural, and also if you're highlighting a gap, it's like that and what do you have after just talking about the gap, where maybe it's a way to highlight a problem that you've solved, a challenge that you've overcome, or highlight a growth and learning opportunity that you've embarked on to kind of address that missing piece. I think that's where the storytelling piece comes in.
I love that. And I think that's exactly that storytelling is this powerful, is going to enhance your story and your skills that you bring in. Maybe during that gap, you really grow up a strength and a skill. Yes, bring it in. Okay. Where should job seekers put their energy when looking for a job? It's so much. Yes, it's I feel, should I study? Should I learn something new? Should I network? Should I do projects? Where should I put my energy, Ewan?
If there's one place to put energy into when job seeking, I think it would be preparing. So really preparing for the interview process, I think is key. As Gab said, do practice interviews, mock interviews, and just preparing for those behavioral questions that you're bound to get.
She stole it from you, Gab. So what else should people prepare?
The other thing I would say is spend some time with yourself. If you've just left a job, or a job has left you, or you're switching industries, spend some time with yourself and see, where's your energy at? What are some internal things that you're struggling with? Because I'm just speaking from lived experience here. Just switching a job doesn't heal those wounds and fix those gaps. So while you have a little bit of downtime, spend some time there, so that way when you land this dream role that you really worked hard to get, you're showing up fully and authentically and really ready to move the needle.
I feel like this is a good one for our next question. That is, how can individuals maintain hope and motivation in the face of challenge in the current job market and gaps?
Yeah, I'll go back to something I said earlier is do not let this process define you or your beliefs in yourself. Just really, truly, like Ewan said, it is a competitive market right now, and it is hard. It is hard for everyone. And I don't care how many years of experience you have. I don't care if you have 750,000 followers in the product space. It has still been hard for everyone. So don't let it define you and your abilities, and continue to find things that bring you joy even through this difficult process.
What else could we do, Ewan?
Yeah. Maintaining that perspective is key, right? Like not taking things as a personal failure or setback, but looking at it as a growth opportunity. If you've progressed in an interview process or a hiring process, and you're not chosen, you're not the chosen candidate for the job, perhaps ask for some feedback as to where you can grow, and then use that as a learning opportunity. And then the other thing that I would highlight as a way to stay motivated is really breaking down those goals as well. Like if you have a really big, vague goal, like I want to find a job, like that's very big, right? So breaking it down into maybe I want to apply for 5 jobs this week. I want to work on my resume to fit the criteria for these 5 jobs, or I want to learn about this one topic. Let's say it's growth marketing. Making that as smaller, actionable goals, I think, is one way to really stay focused and motivated, despite this being a really competitive market and any setbacks that I think people will experience as part of this entire journey, given that it's a real numbers game.
I'll throw here another cherry on tag is one of the things that we do a lot is finding community and the power of a tech squad. So a tech squad, beside helping you to build products and build your skills and feel more confident, they are going to help you to go through this space. So the tech squad gets together, and now that they finish their cohort, they finish their product, now they're in the mode of finding a job. So get together. I mean, again, I'm talking about cherry on tech, but if you have people at your side that is let's sit down. How did it go? What happened in the interview? Is anything that we can improve? Let's practice together. Oh, hey, I saw this job. Hey, I can put a reference from you. Hey, I can introduce you someone. So find a group of people that is going to help you in your goal, that is finding a job. So I feel like that's a good one. Again, cherry on tech here too. Okay, we have a question. Maybe this can go here. Oh, Denise is, that's true. Okay. Okay, maybe, okay. Kritika, I'm going to ask your question later, but I have seen it, okay? What are some tips and tricks for networking as a new product manager, both online and in person, to expand my professional connections and opportunities? I saw you nodding, Ewan. Any tips?
Always easiest to start online, right? Like LinkedIn, reaching out to people in your network, asking for introductions. I think that's a great place to start. Attending industry events now in person as well, or online communities. That's another way. And also seeking out mentorship, right? Like Juliet, you're a mentor on ADP List. I think that's a great community for people just to connect with other folks who have experience to share. Is also a form of networking.
I'm going to add an extra here, Gabs. How powerful is networking for new PMs?
Yeah, I think it's really powerful because you don't know what you don't know when you haven't been in the industry. And networking and building a community of other PMs who are a couple years ahead of you help you find those blind spots. Because especially people like Ewan and I that have been here for 8-10 years, we did everything with blind spots. So we did all of it the wrong way to begin with. So let us share those experiences with you so you don't. But the other thing is, I think the more and more PMs you talk to, the more and more you get to refine your brand statement. So that way, when you're at networking, you can tell people exactly who you are, what you want to do, why you want to do it, and you become memorable because it does become a lot easier to get those introductions. I talk to people all the time who tell me, oh, I want this very specific industry or this very specific role. And then when I see it pop up, I can just shoot it over to them on LinkedIn. Don't have to have much conversation or detail about it, but just I thought of you because you left a very clear memory in my mind what you were looking for. And this came up, so I thought I'd share it with you.
I feel like I'm coming here more from like someone in a new career. It doesn't mean that you just go and talk to PMs. And I'm giving an example maybe for UX designers because they always come to me. Yes, I just talked to UX designer. It's like, well, you can talk to PMs, you can talk to developers, you can talk to anyone about you, I think. And coming from what you say, Gabs, more people that know about you and what you want to get and the space that you want it to be. There is a lot of people that are going to start thinking about you, and you're really putting that energy in so many people about you. So just go and talk to people. It's not easy, and it doesn't get easy if you stay at home and don't talk to anyone. So if you go out and talk to people, you're going to get so good at it. Believe me, I wasn't good at talking, but I just talk a lot, so that helps. Okay, what should candidates prepare for product management interviews, including common questions, case studies, behavioral assessments, or what do we prepare, Ewan?
So behavioral questions, for sure, you're going to get that in any interview, even at the recruiter stage. They're going to be asking you a bunch of behavioral questions. So definitely prepare your scenarios, as Gab said earlier, right? Like you want to have just a handful, 3 to 5 different types of scenarios that you can speak to when it comes to a challenge that you experience, a weakness or a strength. Like those are just common questions that's going to get asked. That's really difficult to think on your feet. So prepare those using frameworks that, again, online resources are great. Working with an interview coach is also amazing. So definitely prepare for those.
Yes.
The other thing I would add is going to piggyback off of what something Ewan said is, what do you want to know about that company? And I think, you can do a quick Google search and you can find like, ask them about their plans in the next 5 years. But when you're interviewing for a product team, what's really important to find out is what is the culture that you're walking into on that team. So one of my favorite questions that I tell people to ask is ask them about a time a release didn't go well. Ask them about a time they missed a release date. And especially if you're talking to the hiring manager, you're going to get a glimpse into their hiring and their managerial, like how they interact with their team. You're going to see how the team comes together when times get tough. You'll really get to see a glimpse is like, what's the culture like when things aren't all cherry and rosy and really happy. And so I think that really helps you too, because an interview is also your chance to decide if that's the right fit for you, just as much as they're deciding if you're the right fit for them.
I feel like here we come to the space of like, oh, I haven't done these like in real job experience. What do I do? What kind of answer can I bring in if I don't have like that hands-on experience in a question that you're asking me, Gabs?
If you think about the gist and basis of what product management is, we're solving problems for people. And you can probably go back to any situation in your life where you've solved a problem for someone and use that as an example. So if you don't have lived experience, but you really, have leaned into this in your life, feel free to share those. If you have kids, like when did you solve a problem for one of your children or a parent or a friend or a coworker, right? So I think if you can really lean into that problem solution space and how you creatively solve problems, you're going to be able to tell that story, which is what ultimately they're looking for in the long run.
And I feel like this tied on really well from what you mentioned before is like confidence. Like if you bring your confidence in whatever story you are telling me and really tying in that storytelling is going to help you a lot. It's different if I say, yes, like, oh, yes, I did this. It's like, no, I went this and I did that. And again, bring your heart eyes into the conversation. That's going to be super powerful. And again, people can sense your confidence and that you can do the job or not. Ewan, do you have like a memory of like a surprise question that someone asked you during that interview that you were like, wow, this is such a good question that no one have asked me before? I know, sorry, I
That's
don't have
a good
this on
one.
my list.
That's a great one. A recent question that was asked in an interview process was, I prepared a bunch of questions that I would ask a candidate, but I never expected the candidate to ask me the same question back. So a very typical product a question that you ask in PM interviews is describe one of your favorite products, why you like it, and what you would improve about it. So, I asked that in interviews and I never really thought of it myself. And someone actually asked me that question back and I was just caught surprised.
Love it. Gabs, do you have like a memorable story too on your side?
Yeah, I do. When I was still growing my product team, I had a candidate ask me, how would I describe the color yellow to someone who was hard of seeing? And I really love that because accessibility is a huge thing that we're looking at in products these days and a huge area of focus. And so it allowed me to not only think about how I would, kind of describe things in an alternative way to make sure it was understood to all of our customers, but it became one of my favorite go-to questions now that I keep in my back pocket.
Nice. Love it. Okay.
I love that.
Yes. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So from Critica on YouTube, what is the biggest challenge a junior PM will face when they get the job? Gaps.
Overwhelm. Listen, being a product manager is a really challenging job. And I don't care how good you are at it. It's just the sheer volume of work that's just around. And so that's part of that kind of self-awareness I talked about in the beginning is, are you able to check in with yourself, know where you're at, being able to speak up and ask for help, and really build those relationships with the people around you because they've all been there. And so I don't want you to feel like you have to take that overwhelm into yourself, but it will definitely have days that feel overwhelming.
Yuan. Oh, I mean, is this ever changing? Maybe that's the question too. As a junior, as at any level, is any change? But Yuan, another thing that juniors, developers, PMs will get surprised is in their new job.
I think for junior PMs, when they enter that role, it's very overwhelming. But I think what's going to be surprising too and difficult, especially for someone who's junior, is the number of no's they have to say and being able to do that confidently, right? Because as a PM, the cliche is that the saying no is the number one thing. You have to say no to a lot of requests, and I think that's just a skill set that new PMs would just have to pick up. And it's when we talk about soft skills earlier, this is something definitely to highlight, right? The ability to negotiate, communicate, and also influence decisions, right? Explain reasons behind a decision that you've made. So it's not just about saying no to something, but explaining why it's a no and also what is the alternative solution. But definitely, I think for early career folks, saying no will be difficult and challenging.
Such a good one.
I want to go back to the part of yes, a good entry way into tech as a PM is maybe taking another job in the company and organization that I like. Okay, now I got that job as a QA or as any other role. What is my next step to move into the PM role that I came for? Yuan, what should we suggest people to do?
Talk to the people on the product team. Keep an eye out for opportunities, network internally within the organization, let your aspirations be known, because when the next role opens up, they're going to be thinking of you. But if they don't know that you want to get into a product role, then they're going to be posting that.
Yes, don't wait until it posts. Yes, now it's a little bit late there. Gaps, what else can we do?
Yeah, the other thing I will say is just know from a product manager's angle, breaking down silos is always a constant challenge for us. So if you are on another product adjacent team and you can help me build a really strong relationship with your team, then I'm going to recommend you to come over if I know that we have a position open. But not only just because you've built a relationship with me, but because you're making the organization better. So you're showing what you can do when you're allowed to spread your wings a bit.
Okay, if all the viewers that are with us today can do one action just after this, what they should be doing to find their PM role. One action, Gabs.
Narrow down the size, company, and industry that you want to work for.
UN.
Prepare.
Love it. Thank you so much. This was so much fun. I feel like I'm going to throw it there. Is any other question? Let me see if I missed anything here, but I feel like we're good. This was so good. And I'm going to throw some cherry on tech here. We already found all our participants, but we're still looking for mentors. So if you are a woman, non-binary, or trans folk in tech, in PM, or as a developer, and you are looking for mentorship opportunities, make sure that you come to Cherry on Tech, LinkedIn, website. You can talk to me. We would love to have you. So we are looking for mentors. Thank you so much. This was so good. I think I'm going to put both of you down for the future to have you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
So
Thanks
fun.
for having us.
Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to sign up on LinkedIn and YouTube so you don't miss any of this. So good. Okay. Bye, everybody. Thank you.